Before starting this program, I had only been in the classroom for about a year. My viewpoint on education was extremely limited due to little experience. I focused on the learning approach from Benjamin Bloom taxonomy. This approach to learning focuses on a hierarchy of objectives with knowledge that gradually moves towards complex evaluations of learning. Previously, I would assess prior knowledge that students had on a specific topic. I would then give instruction that presented this topic as new knowledge. Lastly, I would assess students to ensure understanding of content. Once I started this master's program, my attitude towards education made a slight change and focused more on a spiral curriculum approach by Jeremiah Bruner. In this approach, children are able to master challenging content that is applicable for their age level. The spiral curriculum approach allows for multiple opportunities for students to revisit topics that may be challenging. Once I began to learn about this style, I found the importance in giving students multiple opportunities to master challenging content. I believe this method is the most beneficial for students because of the continual learning of topics. With a repetitive yet rigorous pattern, students are able to build their knowledge and stay engaged while learning. This gives students multiple chances at practicing content until they have mastered it. This process also provides a supportive learning environment for students that may struggle with difficult concepts. I believe that with a supportive learning environment and a repetitive practice of content, students on all learning levels will grow. A second approach that I believe is beneficial to use in the classroom is the multiple intelligence approach, which provides various ways of information to be instructed and practiced. When using this approach, students and teachers are able to understand content in ways that best fit their learning strategies, and they are able to express what they have learned in a creative way. Each student is different and learns in a different way, which is why multiple intelligence approach is so crucial for classrooms today. I believe that it is my job to present learning styles that reach all learners. As the highly recognized educational theorist Howard Gardner has proved in the past, teachers need to present students with verbal, logical, visual, musical, and kinesthetic learning opportunities to ensure that each student is being reached in the class. Allowing students to learn and present their knowledge and understanding in a way that they best connect with a particularly important when trying to give students a voice in the classroom. All in all, my philosophy on education is to continuously present knowledge to students using various forms of instruction so that each child reaches their potential. I also believe it is important for each child to connect to what they have learned and present it in a creative manner that shows understanding or mastery of the content. All of this has to be provided to the students in a supportive way by the educator, by providing a calm classroom environment, safe communication, and by being a supportive leader. One of the first significant events that I experienced in this program was dealing with action research. I was given the opportunity to pick a specific subject area and issue that was present in my current classroom to do an active research on. After collecting data from my students, I was able to create and implement strategies. There was change observed in student behavior, effort, and assessments, so I made class changes for all students. I decided to use my reading class because they were particularly low readers. I conducted multiple surveys asking students to answer questions that rated their feelings towards reading and why they felt that way. In doing this, I was able to identify a major commonality among the students. They were scared of failure and felt that there was no point in trying to push through difficult words and passages. I later surveyed the students to find out what would be the best support for them to feel confident in their reading skills, increase their desire to push through difficult passages, and improve on assessment scores. The results from this survey showed that students would appreciate more opportunity to pre-read passages or read in pairs. I took these ideas and crafted them to fit our direct instruction teaching style to provide students with a comfortable reading environment that they felt confident in. In a few weeks, I found that my students were reading more fluently than ever. And not only could they read fluently, but they have a deeper understanding of events taking place in the passages. Not only was there a change in student behavior and skill growth, but there was also a visible change in student assessments. There was an overall increase in written assessment grades from the beginning of the school year to the implementation of partner read or peer reads. This proves that continual reading and repeated reading increases understanding of content. My students' reading fluency assessments were also impacted slightly by these changes made in our practice. Based on these results, my students began partner reading after our choral reads, or they would independently read the night before so that they were prepared for the next day's reading assignments and assessments. Arts integration was a new idea for me because of my school's direct instruction teaching style. At first, this integration method was very daunting for me because I do not have an artsy mentality. However, I very quickly learned that this method of teaching does not require specialized skills in art, and it provides a diverse way of teaching for students of all learning styles. I found that the term arts integration consisted of different methods that could be added or used while instructing students, such as dance, music, drama, and visual arts. The method that best fit my school's teaching style and the levels of students that my class consisted of was adding arts integration into my math instruction. I was able to add rhythm components to my math instruction for better understanding of difficult processes, such as dividing fractions. My students, which are homogeneously grouped based on achievement levels, were very confused about how to divide fractions, so I used a different method of teaching. I used music to remind them of the steps when dividing fractions. Based on the increase of assessment grades after this integration, it was evident that this new style of learning made a remarkable impact on my students' understanding of dividing fractions. Both students and parents were very excited to see this growth, so much so that they requested more songs for math and requested outside resources to create songs for other topics. I also used visual arts. Students created replicas of part to whole and fraction representations. I had my students complete a project that required them to create their own pizza, with portions of their pizza having specific toppings. They had to create a poster that explained their pizza in fraction form. Laura Lackley and Diana Huxhold stated in an article that teachers also indicated that the tangible practices of arts integration education seem to help children not only with their engagement in learning, but with their abilities to articulate what they were learning. This product not only allowed my students to show what they had mastered, but it also provided them with a chance to express their knowledge in an exciting way that was personal for them, that I was not familiar with prior to this program. Being so new to the teaching career, I did not have much time to go outside for additional resources in everyday material. Learning about the importance of being a global citizen was very eye-opening for me. Once I realized that being connected globally was not hard, I began to open my eyes into using outside resources. In doing this, not only did I provide my students with additional information about the concepts, ideas, and environments outside of our community, but I also was able to educate myself a little more on events that were going around in the world. By the end of the school year, I had used many connections across the world to support what we were learning in our class, with a bit deeper information and making deeper connections. One specific example of how I connected our learning to places across the world was FaceTiming with my sister while she was in London. My reading class had spent 9 weeks reading a story about Henry VIII and his son Edward. Ironically, my sister was visiting London at the same time our story came to an end. I worked with my sister's schedule and our reading time, and she was able to FaceTime us while she was on a tour in the exact place that our story had taken place. The instructional decisions teachers make in teaching world cultures are especially crucial given the influence of the United States in the world today, which is why this opportunity was extremely exciting for my students. Students were able to partake in diverse learning opportunity that took them to another country. This opportunity allowed for my students from other countries to feel empowered and to feel as if they could make cultural connections that would better support their understanding from a familiar perspective. Students were able to make connections not only about the story, but also connecting to other educational subjects, like monuments and geography. Students that have family from London were able to give personal experiences of what it was like to be in London and how it was similar or different from the United States. A goal that I strived to meet throughout this program was to pick one topic that I needed to improve on in the classroom. Dr. Taylor's science class was exactly what I needed to push myself in finding new ways to teach science. In this class, I was able to find and test multiple technological tools that enhanced my instruction so that students were engaged and excited to learn. My students were able to connect with these because most of them love using technology as a source for games at home. This supports the statement made by Frizzle. Students begin to wander naturally without prompting. Providing them the opportunity to play a game to solidify what they had learned was a hit because they could connect outside interests to things they were doing in school. I found many interactive resources that I was able to use in my classroom to extend the knowledge of topics that were difficult to teach. For example, photosynthesis was a very difficult topic for my students to understand because this is not a process that is tangible. The students could watch a plant grow in our classroom. However, they had done that in previous years. I was able to find interactive games that had students go step by step through the photosynthesis process so that they could physically see each small process take place. This was extremely helpful for my students because they were literally able to connect the knowledge that we had learned in class to a fun game they were playing. Lastly, I learned how to integrate multiple subject areas into a very structured teaching environment. In Dr. Crawford's class, I had the assignment of completing an inquiry-based trade book lesson plan that required me to take a book and incorporate purposeful lessons from other subject areas while reading the novel. I was not sure how or what to do for this project because we do not do novel-based readings at my school. I decided to use a book that focused on money and community to complete this project. I was not able to use this specific project in my classroom. However, it did open my eyes as to how to connect multiple pieces of learning for deeper understanding. I was able to connect other content areas in my class after I completed this content. For example, I did a mini unit on diversity and ethics when we read a passage about Jane Addams, a women and children's activist. My students were unaware of the equalities present during the late 1800s in Chicago. We had discussions and read articles on why women and children had to do specific tasks and jobs during that time period. These discussions and articles allowed my students to have a deeper understanding of the life for women and children during this time period. It also initiated extremely specific questions from the students as to why and how things have changed for us today. This gave me the opportunity to incorporate an extra history lesson into my current reading lesson. I pulled historical articles for students to read to further our discussions on women and children's rights in the 1800s. We spent an additional day mapping the differences between women and children's rights from the past and today. This additional lesson provided information for my students that would extend their knowledge about the characters in our reading passage, as well as deliver important historical facts. This graduate experience has allowed me to open up and participate in opportunities that I would not have considered prior to the start of this program. I have continued to increase my role as the leader of our AR department for the school. I have stepped up in team meetings to share important information that I have learned about the action research I have completed, resources that I have found, and the benefits of adding specific components into our daily instruction, such as arts integration. I plan to continue my research to better support my reading students by finding a solution that continues to meet the expectations of our curriculum and that also provides the best assistance when meeting my students' needs for assessments and growth. I also plan to share arts integration information with the curriculum team that I am on to identify the positive impacts that come from arts integration. Lastly, I plan to apply for the leadership program through the Luddy Professional Development Program in the coming spring. This would prepare me for future positions such as a team leader, a peer mentor, or even to withhold an administrative position. Going forward, I will strive to continue to provide a comfortable learning environment that reaches a variety of learning styles with a goal of individual accomplishments that are reasonable for each student.